classes like this in the past where I focus on one card and allow that to be the lens in which the class is going to be. And I am doing it again. This card is Judgment. It felt like a suitable card. This came to me in my practice a couple days ago. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. It is Scorpio season, around Halloween, around election day. So this card just seemed relevant for all of that. It's ruled by the planet of Pluto. And if you practice astrology, Pluto also rules over Scorpio. That's the season we're in. But to get more specific with tarot, the archetype of Judgment is pretty complex. And there's that word right there that I personally meet with resistance when it comes to the word judgment. I resist both giving and receiving it. So tarot is wonderful because there's images along with it. So it helps expand upon just one simple word. I'm going to start by showing you the image of the Rider-Waite, which is the most traditional tarot deck. I lost the deck itself, so I'm going to show you a picture out of the guidebook. But I appreciate the way that this is drawn here. So you can see that trumpet. So there's this sense of like this is happening. And it is the 20th card. There are 21 cards total in the major arcana. So we're in the second to last one. The last one being the world, or a completion of the cycle, the Fool's Journey. And down here, we have all of these individual folks in their own graves. So again, the last card right before the end, right? So they are ready for the ultimate end, and they have this open body language of acceptance for their judgment day, so to speak. So I really appreciate how this helps with judgment. I have one of each of my 3 decks that I tend to use more often in class too. This is Wild Unknown. And I'll just let you absorb your own impression of these images. I want to be mindful about how I influence during these classes. So notice any depth, color, or I guess not color, but use of shading rather. This one has color though. This is Mother Peace. Trying not to influence your own opinion or feelings of this card, but to let you know that is an Egyptian Ankh there in the center. And then here's Moonchild. I'm just giving you informative detail here. That is Thoth, the Egyptian god, the scribe of the Akashic records. If you are familiar with the Akashic library, that is that really puts the metaphysical in this practice. It's everything that has ever happened, past, present, or future. So in this way of belief, he weighs your heart against a feather, that whole thing. And that actually leads me into what I wanted to talk about with judgment, which comes to that resistance that I first alluded to. And when you think of like, am I good enough, or am I right? And there's that sense of coming to a decision or a judgment or a discernment. And there's a lot of muck to work through. It's very nuanced and layered, just like us. So let's get into our layers. Find a seat, we'll meditate, Maybe you sit cross-legged, however, doesn't matter. Feel that spine lift. Might bring support somewhere. And come into your outer layer of your own being here. So feeling your skin and how the skin is touching your clothing, feeling your hair, and the space and air that you are inhibiting, that you are taking up, inhabiting, I mean. Breathe that air. Feel the cycle of your own breath. Noticing the air that is entering you, filtering through. And when it leaves and it's pushed out and away, we'll continue to breathe here, in and out, focusing on the relationship with you and the air around you. Just that direct air, not necessarily the room that you're inhabiting, but the air itself that is filling all of those spaces. And how your outer layer might interact with that. Allowing the breath to follow the valleys and mountains of your being. And at some point, your awareness might soften and you no longer feel your edges. You might even feel a sense of dissolve, of being a part of that air. Breathe in through the nose. Feel it suck into your head. And when you exhale, send it down to your seat. And notice all parts of the body touching the floor, allowing yourself to be grounded. For when it comes to making a judgment call, there's a need for groundedness, being steady. There's no room for wavering with this card, with this archetype. So we'll stay here for a couple moments of silence and stillness. Notice the next few breaths that you take. Bringing full awareness to the pace in which you're breathing, to the amount that you're breathing. And we'll take one more breath. Really noticing how you're exhaling. Good. And then you can begin to make some movement in the body as we bring ourselves out now. We're going to do something we don't normally do. We're going to stand up. Yeah, we'll come to a standing position here. And just notice the feet here, shifting from side to side. Maybe even lifting in the heels a bit. Maybe bending the knees, shaking the hips. Yeah, and really notice the bottoms of the feet and the toes too. Spread those wide. And really solidify from big toe to little toe. And also back in the heel too, the left and right sides of your heel. Notice the ankles. And follow the body all the way up through the knees, the hips and pelvis. Just noticing along the spine. Broaden through the collarbone a bit and lengthen through the neck. And it's your choice to face the hands towards you or in front of you, whatever works. And just take a couple moments to breathe and soften. Feeling this mountain pose Tadasana. And we'll get some energy moving with our breath here and our awareness. As you inhale, just feel the feet pressing into the floor and the crown of the head lifting up to the heavens or sky. Whenever you exhale, notice it sending back down to those feet onto the floor. Feel this scan up and down with your inhales and exhales. And we'll think about that last visual with Thoth, or also called Thoth in some. He is the gatekeeper between the earth and the cosmos. And what's beautiful about polytheistic views is that they represent all these different types and forms of God, of creator, of parts that make up this world. And we also make up this world. So all of these gods are also an expression of ourselves. So we are our own gatekeeper. So feel that scanning up and down. And feel all that space that you take up. These inhales, this growth, that crown of the head, the crown chakra up. The exhale, rooting down, solidifying your stance. Good, and we'll take 3 more breaths together. Inhaling. And exhaling. Good, inhaling. And exhaling. And one more breath together. Good. Notice those palms and fingers. Maybe make some intuitive movements. And then whenever you inhale next, deeply, fully lift those arms up overhead. Good. And pause here, feeling from fingertips to toes down. And stack and feel that long line in your body. That long growth here. And then just soften in those shoulders, maybe soften in the elbows, flapping the wrists a little bit. Open up in the heart, in the chest, maybe the arms go out a little bit. And now we'll recall that very first image. So this sense of lifting up and opening and accepting it, whatever lies ahead. Can we tune into acceptance to what lies ahead? Let's breathe together. When you inhale next, bring the hands together. When you exhale, dive it forward. And we'll come to Uttanasana, standing forward fold for a bit. And you might use a prop or something. If you can touch the ground, feel free. Maybe you grab opposite elbows. Soften in those knees a little bit and wiggle in the hips and the tailbone a little bit. Lengthen that up. And shake your head, yes. And shake your head, no. And then shake your head, yes again. And then another no. And then let it just dangle and hang in stillness and breathe deeply through those neck bones, those shoulders. Create some space, dropping through the mid-back. And notice those feet again in your stance on the floor and the way that your weight is distributed. With an inhale, come to a halfway lift, broadening through the collarbone, lengthening through the back of the neck, and engaging in the core ever so slightly. Breathe in again, feel that 90-degree angle in the body, like a sharp pivot, a right turn. Inhale. And exhale, fold. Then we're just gonna slowly bend the knees and come to a seat. Then we'll come to a staff pose, Dandasana, and just bring those legs forward. Shake it out a little bit. Good. Staff pose, hands grounded, backs of the legs grounded. Breath and body long. Just feel the length of your legs for a little bit. Feel the straight knees. And then begin to lengthen through the backs of the heels and flex those toes high and wide. Feel that engagement through the back of the leg and maybe a shift or change in the knee. And then begin to point the toes the other way, shifting, rolling on those heels, curling the toes. And pass this back and forth. An inhale brings those toes up and out. And an exhale brings them down and away. You might choose to move in circles as you do this, or you might keep it in a one plane of movement. Allow the breath to influence the pace of your movement and remind yourself you have control over that. Is the first way, your first gut instinct working for you? Do you want to slow it down? Do you want to speed it up? Good, just moving in the ankles and toes for another breath or two. Good. And then when you're ready, we'll bend our knees outward and bring the soles of the feet together now. Now let's bring more attention to our feet with our hands directly, and you might make more circles, or maybe you massage the bottoms of the feet, maybe you move the toes a little bit. Yeah, it's another foot rub class. Our feet take us everywhere we've ever been. They deserve some love. They deserve some thank yous. And then they also deserve a moment to rest before we continue, before they continue. Beautiful. Good. All right, let's bring the awareness to the seat now. Shift from side to side, level that out, maybe flap your little butterfly wings, notice the hip socket, little. Good, and just some stillness. I personally like to brace my hands along my ankles, whatever works for you here. And just notice the hips underneath the shoulders. And notice the top of the head over the seat again. Come back into those swooping up and down breaths for a moment. Good. Few more moments here. Noticing from the crown of the head to the ground and your seat. Noticing one more exhale whenever that comes, or leaves rather. And then as you're ready, just slide those arms up the legs to the knees now. Just kind of pulse and press ever so gently down from side to side here. And just really gently kind of rocking and pressing, so just very gentle compression. And as you do this and you shift, you can notice that there is an effect in your hips and your pelvis. We're going to slowly walk the hands and our compression up the middle thigh. And then we can walk it back down the thigh, back to the knee. So we're going to explore this up and down for a little bit, and we'll come back into our own sense of discernment. How's the pace that you're moving? What would it feel like if you slowed down a little bit? What would it feel like if you sped up a little bit? And then also notice what part of the hand touches you. Is it the base of the palm? Is it a thumb, a finger? And then also notice how much, what's the pressure? Yeah, we're getting full awareness here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll come up to the hips. I like to kind of press my fists into my hips a little bit. Yeah, like some massages. You might make some circles as you press that tissue around. Maybe the very fronts of the hips, you kind of put your fingers, wrap that around. That might feel nice. It's a little bit of compression here. Good. Great. And now let's bring our hands to our lower abdomen and just kind of rub it a little. Then we'll keep the left one down here and shift the right one up to our heart. And we'll stay here for a little bit, breathing into our open hips. Energy that we moved from the feet up through the legs. And now we're holding it here in the sacral and the heart. Notice the breath, the rhythm, the pace of the breath, as well as the heartbeat. Do your hands feel it? Noticing any temperature you might feel? And really noticing both palms coming onto the body. That right hand coming to the chest and the left hand down in the belly. Noticing again that temperature, any heat in that hand. Let's notice the left one. And slowly begin to drag that hand up through the solar plexus, the center of your core, up even more, and then stack on top of the right hand. Take a few breaths here in your heart, having open compassion. If there's an overabundance of air, elementally speaking, judgment can turn into criticism or perhaps blame. And these are things that we can feel as humans, and it's okay to feel it. And we might especially be feeling it now with what lies ahead with the election. Just a reminder to fall into that watery heart and that sense of groundedness and earth. Slowly bring those hands from the heart to your own throat and touch your throat in a way that feels good to you. We have a voice. We have a vote. That is important. Good. Beautiful. Just notice the throat for a little bit and just begin to bow the head down in reverence and honoring this throat, this body, this vessel, this experience. We can bring our hands back down to the floor now and the bottoms of the feet to the floor too. And just rock the hips from side to side. And we'll begin to lower to our backs when you're ready. You might hug the knees into the chest. Introduce yourself to the floor and take a few moments to just be there. Just be in your being. And scan your outer edges again. So again, Judgment is the second to last card in the Major Arcana. We're coming to a closing of a cycle, to a death of a cycle. And tarot is absolutely not a predictive practice. So it will not tell us anything in regards to results. But I will pull a card for us. But regardless of these results, there is going to be some big, big changes. Feel that floor beneath you. Well, I pulled the Lovers. That is nice. We've talked about the Lovers plenty of time as it's come up a couple different times in our classes. Let's hug our knees into our chest if we haven't already. And really hug yourself, squeeze yourself, feel it. Maybe even curl your forehead up. And feel the engagement it takes to squeeze, the engagement it takes to love. It takes effort. If the head's lifted, lower it back down to the floor. Let's hug the right knee into the chest. And we'll either bring the bottom of the left foot to the ground or extend it long. That is your choice here. Let's make hip circles with our right hip. So more pelvic movements here. Let us, right hand to the top of the right knee, left hand to the top of the left hip or thigh. This helps ground us. We're just gonna guide that right hip around in a circle. So just feeling that hip bone coming into the socket. And again, like before, notice the pace in which you're moving. Maybe slow down. Notice the places that your movement takes you. Maybe one spot you're like, ooh, let me hang out here for a bit. And then notice the direction that you're going. You're welcome to change it at any time. So intuitive movements here in the hip. And then a little reminder to scan the rest of the body. If anywhere tensed up as if it was trying to help here, you can remind it doesn't need help. You're all good, you can relax. Good, and then centering the movement, bring that right knee back into your chest and bring the left hand around it too. So let's interlace the fingers and bring it behind our thigh. Good, and then we'll slowly straighten the right leg. You do not need to go to your fullest expression of this. Just slowly straighten it, breathe in, notice the length through the back of the heel. And then whenever you exhale, bend that knee again. You might hug it into your chest a bit. Whenever you inhale, we'll straighten, lift through the leg. Whenever you exhale, bring it back in. Take a couple more rounds of this at your own pace. Good. Whenever you straighten your leg next, we'll keep it long. And then we will flex our toes back and forth again. So when you inhale now, bring those toes out and open, spread them wide. When you exhale, curl them away and just go back and forth here. Either one plane of motion, or if you want, maybe some circles in the ankle. A couple more breaths. Good. Whenever you inhale, really notice it. And then full, complete exhale, hug the knee back into your chest. Let out all the air. Good, and we'll come to like a tree pose here, but we're lying down. So just bring the inner right foot bottom of the foot to the inner left thigh. or the shin or calf, wherever feels nice for you. And it might feel nice if you have a folded blanket or a pillow to bring it underneath that right knee. Just a little bit of support. Good. Let's open our arms from side to side with the palms facing up. Feel the right hip open and anchoring in the backs of the shoulders. And feel the long line of your body from the top of the head to the bottom of your foot. We'll stay here for a few moments, just allowing yourself to surrender. Take a few more breaths. And then very slowly bring the bottom of the right foot to the floor. The knee comes up. And hug it back into your chest. We'll come to a spinal twist now, crossing the knee over the body. Maybe you bring that pillow or cushion to that side too, so it has support here. Stack the hips. Long line from the top of the head to the bottom of the foot again. And feel the right arm open up to the side, anchoring the shoulder down. You might even bring the gaze, twist in the neck to look over. We'll stay here for a few breaths. Couple more breaths. Notice the next breath. Full and complete exhale. Let everything out. Whenever you're ready, shift back to bring the base of the spine to the floor. And any intuitive movements here, whatever feels right, maybe a happy baby, whatever. Whenever you're ready now, left knee hugs in, right leg either long or knee bent, foot on the floor. Good, and now we'll make some movements with this hip. So the right hand now is bracing that thigh downwards, and the left hand is guiding the leg. Move it on around, checking in with yourself. Good. Any more movement here? Then we'll center it back in to interlace our hands behind the thigh, and we'll come to this now. So the inhales lengthen, the exhales bend the knee back down. So feel the hamstrings, the muscle group behind the thigh. You might even feel the lengthening that happens underneath your hands here. It takes 3 muscles in the hamstring group to make this movement. And not just that, it takes the antagonist, the opposite muscle group, the quads on the other side, to do that same thing. When one's lengthening, the other's shortening. You need both in order to have stability. Whenever the leg is lengthened again, that straight knee, come into your ankle movements and your toes. Follow that with your breath. Look at all these parts and pieces working together. When you make circles too, there's a lot more that goes on here. Look at the complicated structure that you are. With an inhale, whenever it comes next, just breathe it all in. Full and complete exhale, hug the knee back into your chest. Good. Come to your supine tree on this side, opening the hip. And we'll do that same thing with the arms again. Just open them out wide to the side, palms facing up. Feel into all these points and corners and angles. Good. A couple more breaths. Noticing the next breath. And as you're ready, release yourself from this and come to the spinal twist. Crossing it over. And check in with yourself, with your own alignment, with your sense of safety and support and use of props. Big twist. A wise person knows when to check in and when to check out. And not only that, they know how to check out in a productive way. Take some time this next upcoming week to allow yourself to check out. Notice the next breath. Good. And release when you're ready. Any intuitive movements that come to mind, anything you really want your body to do. Good. And we're going to end the last 10 minutes of class here in a restorative heart opener. This is my suggestion to you. You, of course, are at home and you can do whatever you want. But I will guide you to get into your heart opener with any props you might have. I am fortunate enough to have a yoga bolster, but this is about the length of the yoga bolster. It's very similar to the length of a pillow. So you might stack a couple pillows, or just one, a firm one, a soft one. It's your choice. I choose a soft pillow on top of a firm bolster. To open up that heart, we have our seat on the floor first. Your choice to have legs long, knees bent, whatever. We bring our length of the spine down onto this bolster here, this cushion. See if you can balance that sense of softness and firmness. And we just open up the arms from side to side, choosing what feels right for your chest. And maybe you have a folded blanket that you rest your elbow on. Maybe the curve of what you see my spine is doing isn't necessarily what your spine is doing, and that is a-okay. The point is to just bring awareness to lift that heart open, up and out. We get kind of locked into this opposite position, this curling in. Maybe you work at a desk, that phone crunch too. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of checking the phones. And I will remind you again to take time to check out. Checking out and removing yourself is an act of compassion. We need to reset our electric meat suits. There's a lot of stimulation, a lot of input, a lot of buildup. And it is building up to a release. We have no idea what that release is going to be, but we know that it's inevitable. And so we have to rely on trust. That starts here with us. Just like the Lover's card, it starts here with us. Feeling loving and grounded with your own decisions, with your own judgments, and opening up that compassion and love for others. What this card seems to be telling us is that no matter what happens, there is going to be a sense of strengthening in our loving relationships. In those solid, foundational, important connections. No matter what happens, we are supported. I know that sounds really rose-colored. And I know there's a lot more layers that I didn't even get to excavating today. But for these last 5 minutes, let's just be here. Notice your outer layer again. Allow that outer layer to soften. Soften and surrender. Allow that softening to get deeper and deeper in your own being. Melting in the muscles and the joints and bones. Slowing down. Downshift. Allowing it to come to a coast and just peter out. checking out. Take a deep breath. Begin to bring movement back into the body, honoring the closing out of this class, of this cycle, a sense of completion. You might roll onto your side a bit. And recentering the focus back into your own body. And bring that body back to a seat when you're ready. We'll close out with one another for a moment. The hands can come back to the heart. They could come back to the throat. I'll have you decide where you want them. Wherever they are, just bow that head downwards again. A sense of honoring. I honor the time we spend together. And the light in me honors and cherishes the light in you. Namaste.